Good afternoon. This is Business Live with me, Ian King. The Home Secretary is due to lay out plans to overhaul legal migration. Among the changes are expected to be an increase in the minimum salary someone can be paid before they're allowed into the UK, up from £26,000 to more than £35,000. Plus, there will be changes to the government's list of industries that have worker shortages, which allow companies to recruit skilled workers from abroad. Our business correspondent Paul Kelso joins me for more now. Paul.
We're expecting to hear from James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, very shortly to set out the government's plans to deal with legal migration, specifically those coming to the UK to work. Now, if they increase the minimum salary threshold, currently £26,200, that's going to have some very immediate knock-ons for the public sector. We know that, particularly healthcare and health and social care, where the about 140,000 people who came to the UK last year were overseas. But there's a big knock-on for the private sector too. This is a big problem for big business. Already about 17% of the UK workforce comes from overseas. Increasing that salary threshold to around at least £35,000 is the guidance. While that will push it up above what the salary threshold would be in line with inflation, that is going to price out a large number of jobs that currently British businesses can look to fill from overseas: hospitality, retail and the like. We've heard it before. Boris Johnson talked about transitioning to a high skills, high pay economy. Well, that simply cannot be done overnight. The CBI, among the organisations that's concerned that there is a big economic price to the political decisions that are being made around inflation. They'd like to see the politics taken out of it and this somehow be a subject of independent review as to what jobs the UK would like filled. For small businesses, many of these overseas...
Paul, got to cut you off. Live to the commas now, where James Cleverly is about to speak.
This country is far too high and needs to come down. And today we are taking more robust action than any other government before in order to bring this down. Since my first day in the Home Office, just 3 weeks ago, I have been determined to crack down on those who try and jump the queue and exploit our immigration system. I've been working closely with my right honourable friend, the Immigration Minister, on this subject. The recent figures from the ONS show a provisional estimate of net migration for the year ending June 2023 of 672,000. Whilst this is lower than the ONS estimate for net migration for the year ending December 2022, it is still far too high. When our country voted to leave the European Union, we also voted to take back control of our borders. And thanks to this Conservative government, we now have a points-based immigration system through which we can control who comes to the UK. We prioritise the skills and talent that we need to grow our economy and to support our NHS, and we have a competitive visa system for globally mobile talent. For example, last year we expanded our health worker visa access to address the urgent need for more social care workers. The whole country can also be proud that in the last decade we have welcomed more than 500,000 people through humanitarian routes. People from Ukraine, from Hong Kong, from Afghanistan, including 85,000 from Ukraine and Hong Kong in the last year alone. The British people will always do the right thing by those in need. But they also, and they are absolutely right to, want to reduce overall immigration numbers, not only by stopping the boats and shutting down illegal routes, but by well-managed reduction in legal migration too. People are understandably worried about housing, about GP appointments, about school places, and access to other public services when they can see their communities growing and growing quickly in numbers. From January 2024, the right for international students to bring dependents will be removed unless they are on postgraduate courses designated as a research programme. We always want to attract the global brightest and best. We have also stopped international students from switching out of the student route into work routes before their studies have been completed. These changes will have a tangible impact on net migration. Madam Deputy Speaker, around 153,000 visas were granted to dependents of sponsored students in the year ending September 2023. Today, I can announce that we will go even further than those provisions already in place, with a 5-point plan to further curb immigration abuses, and that will deliver the biggest ever reduction in net migration. In total, this package, plus our reduction in student dependence, will mean around 300,000 fewer people will come in future years than have come to the UK last year. These measures are possible because we are building up our domestic workforce and supporting British workers. Thanks to the excellent work of my right honourable friend, the Work and Pension Secretary, our Back to Work plan will help people stay healthy, get off benefits and move into sustainable employment. It builds on the ambitious £7 billion employment package from the spring budget to help up to 1.1 million people with long-term health conditions, disabilities, or who have been on long-term unemployment to look for work, to get into work and to stay in work. We're also investing heavily in helping adults learn valuable skills and prepare for the economy of the future. And of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have world-class universities that help in that endeavour. So of the 5-point plan, the first of our 5 points will be to end the abuse of the health and care visa. We will stop overseas care workers from bringing family dependents, and we will require care firms in England to be regulated by the Care Quality Commission in order for them to sponsor visas. Approximately 120,000 dependents accompanied 100,000 care workers and senior care workers in the year ending September 2023. Only 25% of dependents are estimated to be in work, meaning a significant number are drawing on public services rather than helping to grow the economy. We recognise that foreign workers do great work in our NHS and health sector, but it is also important that migrants make a big enough financial contribution. Therefore, we will increase annual immigration health surcharge this year by 66%, from £624 to £1,035, to raise, on average, around £1.3 billion for the health services of this country every year. Second, we will stop immigration undercutting the salary of British workers. We will increase the skilled worker earnings threshold by a third to £38,700 from next spring, in line with the median full-term wage for those kinds of jobs. Those coming on health and social care visa routes will be exempt, so we can continue to bring in the healthcare workers on which our care sector and NHS rely. Thirdly, we will scrap cut-price shortage labour from overseas by ending the 20% going rate salary discount for shortage occupations and reforming the shortage occupation list. I have asked the Migration Advisory Committee to review the occupations on this list because of our new higher skilled worker salary thresholds. And we will create a new immigration salary list with a reduced number of occupations in coordination with the MAC. Fourthly, we will ensure people only bring dependents who they can support financially by raising the minimum income for family visas to the same threshold as the minimum salary threshold for skills workers, which is £38,700. The minimum income requirement of £18,600 has not been increased since 2012. Madam Deputy Speaker, this package of measures will take place from next spring. Finally, Having already banned overseas master's students from bringing family members to the UK, I have asked the Migration Advisory Committee to review the graduate route to prevent abuse, to protect the integrity and quality of the UK's outstanding higher education sector. It needs to work in the best interests of the UK, supporting the pathway into high-quality jobs for the global talent pool, but reducing opportunities for abuse. Madam Deputy Speaker, this package of measures, taken in addition with the measures on student dependence that we have already announced in May, means that around 300,000 fewer people will be eligible to come to the UK than were coming last year. This is the largest reduction on record. Immigration policy must be fair, consistent, legal and sustainable. That is why we are also taking the fight to illegal migration. Our plan to stop the boats is working. Small boat arrivals are down by a third, even as illegal migration across the rest of Europe is on the rise. Madam Deputy Speaker, today we have taken decisive action to reduce legal migration with our 5-point plan. Enough is enough. We are curbing abuses to the healthcare visa. We are increasing thresholds, cutting the SOL discount, increasing family income requirements and cutting the number of student dependents. And I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of the statement. Today's statement is an admission of years of total failure by this Conservative government, failure on the immigration system and failure on the economy. It is another example of the total chaos at the heart of this government. Net migration has trebled since the last election, since the Conservatives promised to reduce it, and trebled as a result of their policies on the economy and on immigration, including the Prime Minister's policy decisions. In a chaotic panic, the Prime Minister now opposes the policies that he introduced and thinks that their own decisions are a problem. But who does the Home Secretary think has been in charge for the last 13 years? More chaos, more veering all over the place. Net migration should come down. Labour has called for an end to the 20% unfair discount for increased salary thresholds to prevent. We have called for an end to the 20% unfair discount, also for increased salary thresholds to prevent exploitation and include advice from a strengthened Migration Advisory Committee, and most of all, we've called for a proper plan with clear links between the immigration system and training and the economy, workforce plans, none of which are included in the statement today because they have no grip, no proper plan. This is a chaotic approach. Immigration is important for Britain, and rightly we have helped Ukraine and Hong Kong. We benefit from international talent and students. But that is why the immigration system needs to be controlled and managed so that it is fair and effective, and also why net migration should come down from these record levels. But there needs to be a proper plan. It was this Conservative government who brought in the 20% wage discount that allowed employers to recruit at less than the going rate, even though the Migration Advisory Committee warned against it, even though it is completely unfair. They chose to apply salary thresholds, again lower than the Migration Advisory Committee originally proposed, and not to update them for years. And as Chancellor, and then, as Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Member for Richmond repeatedly blocked proposals to tighten the rules, including in May this year, and including when they refused Labour's calls to end the unfair 20% discount. And they repeatedly failed to listen to warnings about the failure to train or pay properly here in the UK. 12 months ago, I warned that work visas had substantially increased as a result of major skills shortages in the UK, and the Conservatives were not taking any serious action to address those skills shortages. The Leader of the Opposition 12 months ago warned the immigration system should be linked to new requirements to train up workers here at home. But the Conservatives did nothing, and unbelievably they are still doing nothing. Nothing in this statement about training requirements or workforce plans. They say they want fewer shortage occupations, but it was only 4 months ago that they added bricklayers, roof tilers, plasterers to the shortage list because they have totally failed on construction training here at home. There's no plans to tackle that. Engineering apprenticeships have halved since 2018. Well, no wonder engineering visas have gone up. Again, nothing to tackle those failures. And social care visas have gone up from 3,500 a year to over 100,000 a year because they have failed for years to heed warnings about recruitment and retention in social care, and they halved the budget for social care workforce recruitment and support back in the spring, and they are still not listening, still refusing to adopt Labour's plan for a proper workforce strategy for social care, including professional standards and a fair pay agreement. They're failing to tackle the delays in the asylum system that have also pushed the net migration figures up, failing to tackle NHS waiting lists that are preventing the long-term sick going back to work. And the Prime Minister is just crashing around all over the place, reversing policies that he introduced, criticising policies he defended 6 months ago, and introducing new immigration policies without any of the economic policies to match. The previous Prime Minister was accused of being a shopping trolley, veering around from one side to the other. The current Prime Minister is clearly veering, but he certainly isn't steering. He's just climbed into someone else's shopping trolley, and he's being pushed around all over the place. So can the Home Secretary tell us where is the workforce plan on social care, on engineering, on bricklaying, on all the shortage occupations that their total economic failure has left us with? Has the Migration Advisory Committee advised on these policies, and where's the reforms to strengthen the committee so that they can do so? And why are they still not introducing our requirements on employers or on the government to address the skills and labour shortages that are driving the increase in the net migration in the first place? The Conservatives are in chaos. They've got no serious plan for the economy, no serious plan for the immigration system, no serious plan for the country. Britain deserves better than this.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I was waiting for the policy announcements from the Labour Party, and sadly I'm still waiting. She talks about skills training. Madam Deputy Speaker, she talks about skills training. Hers was the party which in government dissuaded people from bringing about, from investing in their own skills, telling people that the only good job was a graduate job, undermining apprenticeships, something that we have set about repairing through our entire time in government. Hers was the party that in government failed to put transitional measures in place when the EU expanded, importing significant numbers of people in the construction industry, which meant there was a disincentive for investing in people and technology and productivity, a situation which she now decries. She fails to make reference to the £7 billion employment package that was announced in the spring budget that will help 1.1 million people get back into work and stay in work. Madam Deputy Speaker, when I was at the dispatch box in the days after my appointment, I said that Labour had a plan for migration. The problem that they have got, Madam Deputy Speaker, is the plan that they are proposing is the plan that I am already implementing. Working with my right honourable friend, the Immigration Minister, since the day I was appointed, we have put forward the most substantial package of legal migration reforms the country has ever seen. And their great idea is already being put in place by this great government.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I am very pleased to welcome about 4.5 of the 5 announcements that my right honourable friend has made, particularly the crackdown on the abuse of the dependence route, which has proved a weakness in the system over recent years, and the increase in the family visa rate. And I can assure him that when he is told that this will cause apocalyptic damage, when I first introduced it 10 years ago at 18,700, which he now says is too low, that was going to be apocalyptic for family life in this country. It wasn't then, it was the right protection then, and I'm glad he's increasing it now. However, can I ask him particularly about the health and care visa, and in particular the reduction of the inability of people now to bring dependents with them? How many care workers does he think will be deterred by that? How much fewer will be the numbers coming here? Because there is a huge shortage in the care sector at the moment of about 150,000, and I would hope that this isn't a significant contributor to the reduction in numbers, because if it is, it will cause damage to the care sector.
My right honourable friend asks an important question. I've looked in great detail. My right honourable friend, the Immigration Minister, and I have crunched these numbers in great detail. What we have actually seen through this particular scheme is the displacement of British workers. So the actual total numbers of people in this sector has not increased anywhere near as much as the number of people who have entered on this visa route. We also suspect, globally, there is a significant surplus demand, and whilst perhaps an individual with a family might be dissuaded because of the restrictions we have on family members, it is almost certainly the case that someone else that does not have those family commitments will be willing to put themselves forward. So we do not envisage there being a significant reduction in demand because of these changes that we've made. But what it will mean is that we have the care workers that we need, and not the estimated 120,000 other people that have in most recent years come with them.
SNP spokesperson Chris Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think this statement will be judged on whether, excuse me, it's pandering to the right wing of his own party, or whether it actually addresses the needs of the economy. And I see them all cheering there. So can the Home Secretary answer a number of questions? Can he tell me of the dependent figures that he mentioned, the 120,000? How many of those dependents are children? Or is he suggesting that children should be going into work? What discussions did he have with the Health Secretary? Because he mentioned his discussions with the Department of Work and Pensions. What discussions has he had with the Health Secretary? Because the Home Office figures show that 143,990 health and care worker visas were granted in the year ending September this year. That's more than double than September next year, which demonstrates perhaps the real crisis and creating more barriers and red tape will have on the NHS and care sector. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, Professor Brian Bell, Chair of the Migration Advisory Committee, recently warned that limits in overseas care worker numbers could see a situation where lots of people won't get care. Does the Home Secretary recognise those remarks and recognise that his proposals may cause irrevocable harm to the care sector?
The point about dependence is an incredibly important one. And actually, if you listen carefully to the answer I gave to my right honourable friend, I made the point that we do not envisage a reduction in the number of people working in the care sector, but a reduction in the number of people that are coming with those workers, people, the vast majority of whom are not in work. And whether they are children or out-of-work adults, the simple truth of the matter is that that creates a burden on the British welfare system or the education system, on housing, on school places, on GPs' surgeries. So the offer that we are making is clear. We are supporting the health sector and the social care sector, but we are doing so in a way that minimises the additional pressure on communities. And the point that I would make is it is incredibly easy for us to say and do things that might superficially be viewed as generous, but the people who disproportionately carry the burden of the decisions that we make are those who are on the lower salaries, who are struggling to find housing, who are on waiting lists. And we should be conscious of their needs, and that is why we are being thoughtful and careful about the people that we are welcoming into our country.
Before we go any further, colleagues will recognise there are a large number of people wanting to catch my eye for this statement. We have another statement after that, and then we have an important piece of legislation to which there have been a large number of people who want to speak. So I would urge colleagues to be brief in their questions so that the Home Secretary can be concise in answers. I will only be calling people who arrived for the beginning of the Home Secretary's statement, and I'm trusting those who are late not to be standing. So Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Madam Deputy Speaker, does my right honourable friend think it would be a good idea to have a cap?
So that was James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, outlining plans which he says will reduce migration by at least 300,000 a year, including toughening up the rules on which family members can be brought to the country and raising the salary threshold for employing family members. We'll have more on this at the top of the hour with Mark Austin. I'm sorry we lost the business news today. We'll try again tomorrow. I'm back at 11:30. Hope to see you then. Cheerio.